Are you struggling with your vinyl wrap? Let me show you why 2 people can be better than 1. Hey guys, this is Alex with TinyBot. Today we're going to be going over how to wrap this rear bumper on this M3. First, we're going to go over why using 2 people is easier than using 1 person. And then we're going to go over the concept of relaxing the film so that you can get the perfect finish and you don't have any pullback or any type of fingering along the edges. All right guys, so I cut out my piece. I measured the bumper from side to side and I measured it in the height. When I go to cut the height out, I give it about 2 inches extra on both sides so that I can make sure I can cover the bumper fully and I can have a little bit of wiggle room if you need it. All right guys, so the first thing I'm gonna do is that we're gonna go ahead and unroll this. We're gonna be talking a little bit while we do this. We're gonna unroll this. The first thing we're gonna do before we actually start taking either the backing or the cap sheet off is we're gonna measure and make sure we have enough. Do you have enough on that side?
Yeah.
I do too, so we're good. The first thing that I do personally is I will take the backing off and then I'll go ahead and take the cap sheet off. I do this just because if I take the cap sheet off, it's gonna make it really soft for me. So when I take the backing off, the film tends to stay a little bit stiffer, so it doesn't wiggle too much for me. And we're just gonna peel this. That also makes it easier to remove with 2 people instead of 1. As you can see, this piece is pretty long, so me by myself, I'm gonna struggle a little bit, but you know, there's ways about that. So what we're gonna do is just gonna put a little bit of tension on it and a little bit more this way, and then we're just gonna stick it on. No need for it to be perfect. The next step that I like to do is I'll go ahead and remove the cap sheet. And now we're ready to get into our lesson. All right guys, so now that we have laid down this vinyl, we're gonna go ahead and tack down the center. The reason I'm gonna tack the center is pretty much I'm gonna make a hinge point so that from here on that way we can pull up, it'll stay stuck still. We can go ahead, heat up and do what we need to do. And same thing with this side, it'll be stuck here already, so we're gonna go ahead and go that way. Now that we have our center hinged, here's my partner. He's gonna go ahead, pull off the vinyl from the bumper. Yeah. So what we're looking for is, we're looking for the less wrinkles possible here. So what he's gonna do is he's gonna grab each corner of this. He's gonna kind of just hold it, not pull so much, just hold it and kind of open it a little bit. And as you can see, watch, pull down, we have too many wrinkles right here. If he pulls up, we have wrinkles up here. So he has to pull evenly and straight. By telling he's doing it right, it's because you'll get minimal wrinkles around here. There's still gonna be some wrinkles, that's just not as bad where it's like this or it's like this. So from here on, what he's gonna do, he's just gonna hold it, put a little bit of tension on it, and I'm gonna go ahead and heat it up, and this film is gonna start evening out a little bit, and then we'll let it relax and we'll start placing it down little by little. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna heat and he's gonna start pulling. I'm gonna start cueing him on once he goes so you guys can get an idea of how it should be. So all I'm gonna do is keep a little bit of tension up on top. As you can see, the wrinkles are disappearing. So this is when, so now that we have it nice and flat, that's when we wanna start telling him to start going around. So little by little, go Daniel. Give me a second. Remember, keep that tension. Go. All right, guys. So again, he's just holding the material. All he's gonna do is he's just gonna wrap it around, kind of like he's just gonna bring it around without any tension, no pulling, no nothing. The heat gun is pretty much doing all the work, making sure all these wrinkles go away. Go. Turn. There you go. Oh, there. Just like that. And as you can see, there's really no crazy wrinkles around here. So that being said, you won't get any kind of a pullback or peeling on all your edges. All right guys, so all I have left is just this area that needs to get tacked to the end pretty much. And so in doing this, we just want to get it about 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch into the bumper, just like that. Because once we do that, we put the light's gonna cover all this stuff. I'm gonna do just heat it, let the material relax a little bit, and then go ahead and put it over, just like that. That way we can maximize our coverage into the inside. All right guys, now that we've done half of this bumper already, we're gonna go ahead and do the other half. So we're gonna go ahead and do the same thing. Daniel pulled it, and he's gonna keep the same tension as he did on this side. Go ahead. out. Right there. And now we just start. We're gonna make sure we heat it up really good at first, because that'll give us a good starting point. So now all we're gonna do is go up and down, up and down. Go down. So, as you can see, as the wrinkles disappear, he starts pulling into the bumper. Go down. This area is probably the most trickiest, just because it has that sharp turn. Go down. Start turning. Alright guys, so now that we have laid down the bumper, what we're going to do is focus on all the edges, all of the corners. We're going to make sure the film goes all up into them, making sure we have no wrinkles anywhere where we need the vinyl to stay up to. And then after that, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and focus on this reflector area. We're going to have to feed this material in. We have to use a couple techniques in here to make sure that there's no lifting eventually after. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure that this film, we get rid of these little wrinkles that it has. And heat it up. Let it shrink back. Go ahead and lay it in, just like that. We're gonna go ahead and seal all of our corners and push the air out. I'm gonna pretty much work in segments. I'm gonna leave the center alone. I'm gonna start right here on this little corner. And all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna push the air out that way or to anywhere where I have an escape route. So we're just gonna go ahead. And so far so good. I just need to push the air that way to the end. Then you work this one down like that. And work this one up. Work this one to the end like that. And then what we're gonna go ahead and do is we're gonna go ahead and lift this up a little bit. It is stuck to the bottom of this bumper, which we don't need it to be. All right, so what we're gonna do is this material did get stuck down here. We only need it to go up to here. So what I'm gonna do is lift it off and give it a little bit of heat. It's shrinking into place, so that's pretty good. That's a good sight to see. As you can see the lines right here. So that's as far as I need that to go. All right guys, so we're gonna take the same approach that we did on the other side. We're gonna go ahead and start here, push the air out, push the air to all the edges, pretty much where you have an escape route for the air to go. And remember to please, this is very important, overlap your strokes, because as soon as you cut all your exits off and you have a bubble, you're gonna have to lift the film up again, and that's a chance for more contaminants. So please, please, please make sure you overlap your strokes. So right here, I actually did do what I told you guys not to do. Now we have bubbles here. Now what we have to do is lift up the vinyl, which can be, subject to more contaminants. Now we just made it harder on ourselves. So that's why it's really important to overlap your strokes so you don't get bubbles like that. And again, same thing, we're gonna pull it off. And we're gonna go ahead and bring our film down. Just like that. All right guys, so now what we're gonna do is focus on this bottom area. This film did go over this diffuser. This diffuser is, holding all of this film off. What we're gonna do is cut off this excess film just to release some of the tension that we need and to be able to get the film down to where we need to. So all of this stuff is in the way. Now cut it off like that. Same thing that way. So our finish line is right here. We're pretty close to it. All we're gonna do is just, pick up the film a little bit, put a little bit of heat on it, like that. Let it relax a little bit. And just gonna start working our way down until we hit that edge where we need it to go to. Just like that. Same thing. All we're gonna do is follow the same method all throughout the bottom of the diffuser. Right here we got a little bit of a wrinkle. Remember, just pop it until we get there. Just like that. Gonna go ahead, heat it up, get rid of some of those wrinkles. Let it cool down, and we'll start working it in, just like that. Same thing on this side. All right, so we're gonna do the same thing. Go ahead, cut off all the extra film that we have. And if you feel like you're still struggling with film, you can go ahead and cut some more. I just tend to be on the safer side. I cut a little bit off until I need to cut pretty close to the edge. Because if you cut too close to the edge sometimes you can go ahead and cut too far and then you don't have enough material to cover. I'm gonna go ahead and lift it up a little bit, just like that. There you go. You start from the center out to the side. Go ahead, heat it up. Let the foam relax a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and start taking it down. Now we gotta heat till all the wrinkles pretty much start going away. That's when we know when we're ready to go. Let it cool down a little bit again. Work our way down evenly. Make sure you work in sections and you work evenly in sections. We got the rest of the film already up to the edges where we need it to be. Let's go over how to heat this area in and how to work with the area where the reflector is at. I am going to wear a glove because this glove is pretty much like a squeegee on your hand. It's going to let you glide your hand across the film. What I'm going to do is I'm going to heat all this area up, make sure there's no wrinkles anywhere. Like that. Make sure all these wrinkles go away. We don't want any wrinkles on this. And I'm going to work the film like this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to work this film in little by little, making sure that no wrinkles come up. Push this in. We're gonna work on it from different angles. It's just, we gotta read the wrinkles. I'm gonna make sure we kind of keep an even line. You know, you don't want to push too much that way because then it'll kind of shift the material in a weird way. So just make sure you keep a even line. As you can see, I'm keeping this even line and everything's going, flowing smoothly. And we made it to the bottom. Just like that. Now what we're going to do is add a little bit more heat just so we can actually get to the edge of this reflector wherever it's at. There we go, just like that. And the reflector's right there. All right. This is where it gets interesting. We're going to kind of heat a little bit, feel around. Oh, right there we can see the reflector. So we can't really cut in the middle. We cut in the middle, we might be too short, but we can cut alongside of the left area. This will still give it enough film to go over, and this will give it enough film to land in there without any tension. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and cut this section off. I'm gonna go ahead and cut it about 1/4 inch off of the left side. If we can't cut it down the middle, because we cut it down the middle, we might be a little too short from this falling in there. So what we're gonna do is go ahead, make a cut here about 1/4 inch, a little bit more if you want to. All the way down to the bottom. Just like that. We're gonna cut all the way through so we don't have any unnecessary tension on these two pieces. Like that. And now what we're gonna do is give it a little bit of heat, not too much. I'm gonna let the film relax. And this one we can push in like this. And this one, we can go ahead, grab our squeegee, and just push it in to the end like this. Just like that. And what we're gonna do here is cut on the seam or the opposite side where the reflector's at, and then just go ahead and tuck the rest of the film on. But let's go ahead to the other side and finish that one off too. We're gonna go ahead and focus on this other side. Keep this area up. Watch all those wrinkles go away. I'm gonna let it cool down a little bit. I'm gonna work our way around. About a 1/4 inch. A little bit more. Work our way down like that. Cut all the way through because you don't want the tension down here. Go ahead and get some heat. And get some low heat. And we're just gonna work our way in with our squeegee. And we're to the edge just like that. Perfect. Now what we're going to do is focus on these edges, make sure that we don't have any unnecessary tension, unwanted tension, because this is where a lot of people have the majority of the issues where you'll have lifting or pulling back. I'm going to go over some tricks that I use actually so that you guys can make sure that you guys have the correct install pretty much. Cut off all this excess material. We don't need all this material to be here. So I did lay a piece of tape down here so I can cut on. I'm going to cut across like this. Lift it off. We're gonna go ahead and cut on this end of the wheel well. Just like that. And we're gonna go ahead and cut this as well. Just like that. Now with using our tape, we can actually heat up directly on here and we can see how this material is gonna react. If it starts pulling back or it starts doing some kind of weird stuff, that means we might have a little bit too much tension. Just because the vinyl won't stick to this tape, it'll actually have some kind of reaction. So as you can see, it's pulling back a little bit here, not so much. So we actually did a good job right here. On this area, we might want to lift it up just a little bit off of the actual panel itself. Heat it up a little bit. Just let it cool down, let it relax, and then start tacking it down. Just so that you don't have overstretched material. Heat it up, let it cool down, let it relax, and we go ahead and start hitting our corners. Luckily, this side didn't have any reaction, but we'll go ahead and pull back some material just in case. As you can see, there's nothing. So that means this side was pretty good with our first install, with our initial install. We're gonna go ahead, just heat up this side. Pretty good as well. No need to pull back. This side is pretty relaxed. You can see that none of this is trying to pull back this way or shifting in any way. So this was good. Down here, we can go ahead and lift up a little bit off of the panel itself. Go ahead and heat up a little bit. Let it relax. Go ahead, just push it back down. Heat, relax. And just push it back down. And all I'm doing as I'm heating, I'm not pulling, I'm not trying to make it, like when I'm heating, I'm not trying to pull down and make it straight. All I'm doing is just holding it, and it's pretty much literally just, flattening out by itself. It's just letting it relax. So there's no need to be pulling it to make it straight. The film will relax, it'll flatten out, and it'll pretty much take shape. Okay. So now that this side is relaxed, we're gonna go ahead and work the center of this panel, and then we'll go ahead and do the other side as well. All right, so now that we have that side, we're gonna go ahead and work on this side. Again, we're gonna cut off all this excess material. I'm just gonna cut it pretty close to where I need it to be to where the end of the bumper is pretty much. Go ahead, cut off all this extra material that we don't need, just because it gets stuck. You know, we don't need it to. It won't do what we need to do. Just like that. Okay, so we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna lift off a little bit from the panel itself, heat it, and we're just gonna watch the material kind of go back down. As you can see, when we heat it, it's not pulling any direction, it's not shrinking back. That means it's relaxed, it's good. We did a good initial install. All we gotta do is just go ahead and just put it down into the edge, where eventually we'll do our final cut right here. Same thing on this side. We're gonna lift it off the edge. We're gonna go ahead and heat it. Again, nothing crazy. We'll let it relax, let it cool down a little bit. And then we'll just go ahead and start tucking our film in. Just like that. And then we're just gonna keep going and doing this along the whole diffuser area of this bumper, so that we can ensure ourselves that we won't have any kind of pullback or any peeling back on this area. All right guys, so now that I've showed you what to do on this side of the bumper, we're gonna go ahead and mimic the same exact thing on this side. Go and just cut off all this extra film that we have here. And we'll do the exact same thing. We're gonna go ahead and heat it and watch it. You can see the material is still doing pretty good. It's not showing any signs of pulling back or wrinkling, which is what we wanna see. And we're just gonna go down and start pushing it in with our squeegee. Same thing. Heat it up. Watch all the wrinkles go away. Again, good thing, nothing happened. That means we're doing good. And we're just gonna repeat that all the way. All right guys, so we're gonna do the same exact thing on this side as we did the other side. Again, I have the piece of tape laying underneath this vinyl. We're gonna go ahead and cut on the tape. I laid a piece of tape underneath. We can use that as a cutting aid so that we don't cut the vinyl on the other side. And again, we're gonna heat it and we're gonna take note of what's happening to this film. As you can see, this isn't moving as much. This part is just like the other one, but again, what we're gonna do is go ahead, lift it off a little bit. Make sure we relax it. We heat it up a little bit, relax it, let it sit, just like that. And as you can see, it stopped moving. Check. Now we're gonna go ahead and check this area again. As you see, we're heating it. It's not, you know, it's not wrinkling. It's not pulling a certain way, which means we did a good job in the initial install of this. Go ahead, cut off the excess. Go ahead, cut off the excess at the bottom as well. Let it relax, let it cool down a little bit, and then we'll just go ahead and start tucking in our material. And now we pretty much have a finished product to be able to cut around all the edges, start tucking them in, and you should be good to go. You won't have any lifting, no kind of peeling, because we know all of our edges are relaxed. Okay, so now that we have all of our, you know, our final tuck-ins, we've checked that to make sure we don't have any kind of overstretch so we don't get any pullback. We're gonna go ahead and do our final cuts in here. We're just gonna grab our blade again, be very careful. What we're gonna do is just in the crease where we've pretty much pushed our material in, we're just gonna put our blade in there. Pretty straightforward. Just go ahead and follow the body line and do your cut. Pretty much once you do your final cut, we're gonna go ahead and heat it, make sure everything's down, nothing's coming back up. Give it another little pass. And the final step after this would just be to post heat it. When you're cutting, you wanna make sure you cut like this and not into the bumper. The reason why is because if you're cutting into the bumper, you have your actual sharp edge digging into the bumper. You're gonna cut the paint. Now, what you want to do when you cut is you want to place the edge of the bumper on the back side of the blade. That will help the blade glide just like this, instead of putting it in the front, which it'll get stuck. And what you'll start doing is you'll start cutting paint off, or you could potentially cut the vinyl in the wrong place. All right, guys, one little tip: when you're cutting on a body line or something or such, you want to make sure that when you're cutting, you want to rest the back of the blade onto the actual panel so that it could glide. If you place the sharp edge onto the panel, what will tend to happen is that it'll get caught, and then you'll cut into the car or whatever piece you're cutting into. So please always make sure that when you're cutting, you run it on the back of the blade, and that will help it glide, and it'll be a much smoother cut. After telling you guys how to do that, we're gonna go ahead and cut this bumper using that technique. We're gonna go ahead, bring the bumper off from the clips. We'll give it one last heat just to make sure nothing's happening. As you can see, the material is not pulling back, it's not wrinkling, which gives us the confidence that this is not gonna pull back. We can go ahead and cut. Again, we're gonna use the back side of our blade to cut on this line right here. You can kind of feel it. That's where we're gonna put the back of this blade, and we're gonna have a straight cut. Follow the line, use the back of our blade. Carefully run it on the back side again, like I told you. All the way to the end. And you can go ahead and peel back your piece. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna continue to cut the rest of this film out. We're gonna finish up all the edges. Then our last step here would be just to tackle the center of this bumper on the top of it, and then we're gonna show you how to do that. We're cutting the edge of this bumper at the bottom where it meets the diffuser. Just like that. I'm gonna go ahead and heat. And then we'll take our hard end of the squeegee and push the material in just like that. And go ahead and give it another heat just to make sure. Cut the rest of this back diffuser area. Just like that. Go ahead and take it off. And one other thing is, this is our final cut. So we do want to make sure that our blades are fresh, are new, because if they are dull, they're gonna give you a nasty cut. All right, guys, so we're gonna go continue this. Another thing that I want to mention is you want to make sure you have a fresh blade. If you have a dull blade, it can start creating jagged cuts, and in certain instances, you will be able to see them, and it's gonna look pretty ugly. So make sure to always have a fresh blade. And again, we're going to continue this. We're going to just keep going with our cuts. Remember, use the opposite side. Use the back side of your blade. You don't want to cut into this paint. Alright guys, now that we have finished the whole bottom of this diffuser area, we're going to go ahead and knock out this reflector real quick. Remember, we already tucked the film in. You can give it a little bit of heat just to make sure we're not getting any crazy visuals with the vinyl. It's staying in place pretty much. And what we're going to do is just, again, same thing. Go ahead and cut on the opposite side of this. So we're going to cut on the reflector side using the back side of our blade. That. Same with this side. Using the back side of our blade. And as you practice more, you'll be able to kind of feel what I mean when I say the back side of the blade. At first, it might be a little tricky, but all this is just practice. go ahead, take our squeegee, feed it in, and you've pretty much finished diffusing your reflectors. All right, guys, so we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna show you guys how to use a couple different techniques to push this material in one piece. The first thing we're gonna do from here is we do have a bit of tension right here. So we do gotta relieve this tension so that we're able to, so that the material is able to push this way and that way. So what we're gonna do is go ahead and cut a little bit of a U shape like this. So now we do have more material to work with on both sides. All right, so what we're gonna start off with is we're gonna go ahead and heat the area. Like this. Now, one important thing to do is we're gonna heat a lot of this area up so that this stretches and we don't stretch this area. So we want this area to kind of maintain cold and for this to stretch because it's flat. This is where we're gonna put a lot of pressure or a lot of stretch into, but this is flat, so no matter how much tension you have on it, it's always going to stay kind of flat, relatively flat. And heat this one up more so that we can have some material to pull this way. So all we're going to do is we're just going to run our finger. Pretty much all we're going to do is make straight lines going this way. Just like this. And we already hit our first line, which is good. We're gonna keep going and heating it. Heat this area because this is what we want to stretch. As you can see, this is stretching and not the actual area that we need tacked. This will most likely help our material not lift because there's no tension around here where it's actually tacking compared to right here where there's really nothing where it's going to tack to. So we're going to go ahead and just keep working it. And we're pretty much at the very end. So as you can see, we're heating it. It's not pulling back, it's not bubbling. All the stretch is right here where, ultimately there's nothing back there to tack onto. So that's where we want to focus. Our main stretch is off of the actual film that's going to go onto the panel. So we're going to go ahead and mimic that on the other side. All right, guys, so we're going to do the same thing we did on that side. One thing to note is that people do like to heat this area and just do a full-on stretch in there while it's hot. What tends to happen a lot of times is once it hits the elements, it's out in the sun, it's out in the cold, whatever it is, it's going to lift up because you're putting stretch into the actual vinyl and eventually it's just going to fail on you. So again, what we're going to do here, we're going to do what we did on that side. We're going to heat the area which we're not going to use to tack. Just like that. And as you can see, as we start pushing the material inward, this area is stretching, which is the area that we are not going to need ultimately. All right, we hit our first line already. We're gonna keep heating this area. We're gonna put a little bit more heat this time because we're pretty much almost there. So we're gonna need a lot of film. See, this is stretching right here. We're not actually stretching the film that we need for it to tack. Just like that. And then once we're done here, pretty much we're gonna do the same thing in the center. The center's pretty straightforward. We can actually just lift it off and then just run our finger. It's pretty flat. There's nothing crazy to this. Just like that. I'm gonna go ahead and hit the other side. We can do this actually cold. It doesn't really need no heat. It's pretty flat. All I'm doing is just feeding in the material with my finger. You can use a squeegee as well. And you're pretty much at the end already. Now all we gotta do is just heat, pull it over, and do our final cut. Again, like we did everywhere else, we're gonna cut off all this excess film that we don't need. It just makes it easier to see, makes it easier to work with. Probably cut a little bit more. Just like that. Even right here too. And if you can see, our edge is not that far. Our edge is literally right here. So what we're gonna do is just go ahead and heat the material up a little bit. Get it warm enough just for it to go over and around. Just like that. And again, using the back side of our blade, not the front, remember that. We're gonna go ahead and just cut on the edge of this panel. And that's how it pretty much should end up as. And we're gonna go ahead and do that on the rest of this car. All right guys, so we did on this side what we did here, as long as going as far as the cutting the edges. What we're gonna do now is focus on this last area that we need, which is a little bit complicated. We're gonna do a certain amount of cuts, certain different cuts, so that we can have this film lay over and around this film. After that, we can put our headlight in and it'll look like there's nothing there. So let's get started. First of all, what I want to do is I want to heat it up. I want to kind of see what's going on a little bit. Everything looks pretty straightforward. Again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut off all the excess material that I have, just so that I can work better with it. Just like that. So you want to. Alright guys, so now that we've laid this film over, it's pretty good. We can cut after. This is the only area where we're going to have a little bit of an issue. We can't lay it down. It overlaps on each other. So the only thing to do here would be, we'll take the corner, give it about 1/8 of an inch. And right here, we're going to do an incision going up. Just like that. And then what we'll do is just lay one side down, lay the other side down like this. And we'll go ahead and do our final cut. Say we did a little cut incision a little bit off of the actual point of the body. All we're gonna do is just flip one side over and then flip the other side on top of it, and it should look something like this. Okay, so now that we have this done, we're gonna go ahead and heat it up, making sure everything stays down, everything looks good so far. Nothing's lifting, nothing's curling. Did a good job. And we're just gonna go ahead and follow this little body line that it has on here already. Remember, sharp blade. And follow that little line. And then we're just gonna finish it off all the way to this corner. And all we have to do, pretty much that's left on this, is just pop this panel off and pretty much just work the edge of this bumper. And after we do that, we should be done. All right guys, so now that we've done that cut, we are ready to hit our last corner, which is this one. All we're gonna do is we popped the bumper off already. We're gonna go ahead and heat it. I'm gonna go ahead and tuck it in a little bit with my squeegee, just to make sure I get the coverage I need inside. And like we did the other side, we're gonna go ahead and cut it. Again, be careful, making sure you don't cut the paint. Be very gentle. We're gonna go back and heat it again. And that's your last corner. All right, guys, so that's how you wrap this bumper. If you guys want to see more or learn more, please follow us and stay tuned for the next video. If you guys have any questions, please comment down below, and we'll see you on the next one.